Well, good morning and a warm welcome to our last virtual town hall of 2020. I hope you're all well and that you're looking forward to a break over the coming weeks and some rest and recuperation, whatever that looks like for you. My name is Corinne Evans. I'll be facilitating this event over the next hour. And I think that most of you are familiar with the format by now, but for those who might not have had the opportunity to join us recently, a reminder of what's going to happen over the next few minutes. So we'll first hear from our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Ian White. Then we'll have a few updates from colleagues on current matters, and then we'll open it up for questions. You can ask a question at any point over the next hour, but we'll take the questions at the end and try to get through as many of them as we possibly can. Finally, we are recording today's event. That's in order that colleagues who aren't able to make us to make it with us live can watch it on catch up afterwards. And then, without further ado, I would like to hand over to our Vice-Chancellor. Ian, over to you.
Well, Corinne, thank you very much indeed, and for your colleagues for making this town hall possible again. And may I thank everybody joining the meeting at this time, meeting when all of us obviously are looking forwards towards Christmas. And I really do hope that you have a very well-deserved time of real rest and restoration. Looking, of course, back this year, it's clear that it's been a desperately challenging one with so much to consider, and where the concept of uncertainty, at least in the context of the UK university sector, has taken on a new meaning. The original challenges of physical health, mental health, and economic health have led to a host of major risks. For us, like many universities, from admissions through campus health safety testing measures, through new ways of doing education, research and administration, devising new forms of student activities in a socially distanced and indeed in some cases isolated world, to new financial challenges, and right through indeed to new forms of graduation and job hunting support. And so obviously, therefore, may I start by paying tribute to all of you who've worked so hard to keep our community safe, to support our students and deliver the quality teaching and innovative research that's been so important despite all the challenges we've faced. It's been hard, but it's clear that it's been worth it, and so very much appreciated by students and also other stakeholders in the university. And so may I take this opportunity to congratulate all of those who will be receiving Recognising Excellence Outstanding Contribution or COVID Awards in recognition of their efforts this year. I'm pleased that we've been able to keep these schemes going despite financial challenges. I really congratulate everybody involved. We're pleased that the lateral flow tests have been so well used in the last few weeks. Roughly 6,800 tests so far. As a significant return has happened of students to their homes for Christmas, but we've a lot of activity going on to look after those who stay, and I'm so grateful to those involved in this. We're of course thinking hard about semester 2 and the need to give as good a staff and student experience as possible in a safe and secure manner. And it'll be vital that we continue to have as good a set of communications with students about semester 2, recognising, of course, that the instability due to the COVID situation could remain earlier in the new year, depending on how Christmas goes. And we also need to start working on how we could open campus up more and be as ready as we can for whatever happens. However, let's put that aside at the moment, and I really do hope that the coming weeks are times when you can really switch off and recuperate from all that you have achieved. Today, as well as hearing some short updates from colleagues, I'm really pleased that the President of the Student Union, Francesco, is going to say a few words. I want to acknowledge how challenging it's been for the SU team this year. We always value the insight and feedback from our Student Union. However, this year more than ever, the SU officers and staff have been exceptionally important partners in helping us to listen to our students and respond to their needs. So do accept, Francie, our sincere thanks for you and the whole team. And so can I pass over to you and invite you to say a few words? Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Ian, for those kind words, and we really, really appreciate them. Thank you for having me today, and I just want to share a quick message on behalf of the Students' Union. And this time it's not to raise any issues, not to collaborate on something, but purely to say a huge, huge thank you. This year we've all been asked to roll up our sleeves, and in a lot of cases to do tasks that were never in our job descriptions. And this has challenged us all as a community, but we have made it, and finally we're really close to a well-deserved break. I want to extend my thanks to each and every one of you who have worked so hard this semester to deliver a quality student experience. Whether you're a member of senior management, an academic, or a professional staff member, your contribution has been incredible and appreciated by all of us and by students too. I really hope that you take this chance to rest, recharge, and spend time with your loved ones. Even though there are still so many unknowns as to what next semester will look like, I am really proud to be a part of this incredible staff community. And if this semester is any example, I know that we will be able to overcome any challenges that come our way next semester. To say that none of what we've been able to achieve together would have been possible without your support, energy, and resilience is a huge understatement. We are incredibly grateful for everything that you do every day to support our student community. And therefore, on behalf of the Students' Union, I want to wish you happy holidays and all of the best things for the year ahead. Also, a couple of weeks ago, we managed to pull together a short video to thank our staff, you all, for everything that you have been doing to support our student community. And I believe that this is what's coming next. But from me and from all of my colleagues in the Students' Union, really, really thank you. And I really look forward to 2021 together. Thank you.
We're just over halfway through the latest lockdown, so I wanted to say a massive, massive thank you to all of the staff at the university who have been working so hard to keep campus running since the start of semester.
We really appreciate how hard you have been working over a really long period of time, and want to say thank you for everything you have done to keep our campus safe and to look after our students who have had to isolate in recent months.
From security to accommodation and hospitality and student services, you have doing an amazing job, and we want to say thank you for being there for us.
To students, we're just over 2 weeks away until the travel window opens, so for many of you that will mean travelling home for a well-earned break.
For many of us, we're nearly at the point where we can enjoy a well-earned rest with friends and family.
Many students will also be staying on campus and in the city over Christmas, and they'll be relying on the ongoing support from the same university staff whilst here.
We know it's tempting to gather in groups even before the lockdown ends, and we know that there are some who have chosen to do that, and now they are facing fines and disciplinary action that will affect their academic record.
As we enter the final 2 weeks of the national lockdown, we think it's important to be spreading the message about respecting the staff who work at our university so they can continue to do their job without feeling anxious or having to intervene in gatherings that should not be happening right now.
And respect those students who want to make sure they can travel home safely and virus-free to be with their families.
We're nearly there, but it's key we work together to make whatever holiday season we have in December the best it can be. Take care.
Well, thank you so much, Francie, for your really kind words. I'm sure they'll be really appreciated by colleagues across the university. And I think that video was really lovely and a really good example of the partnership working with the Students' Union and university staff supporting each other and collaborating together. So a huge thank you, Francie, to you and the SU team. And I know Francie has got another engagement, so I know he has to leave us shortly, but we really appreciate you making the time to join the town hall. Thank you very much. And now it's over to Cassie for a bit of an update about student experience and the winter break. Cassie, over to you.
Thanks, Corinne. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking to you about plans for looking after our students over the winter break and the activities we're going to put on for them during the 2-week period. So we've had a subgroup of the Student Experience Project team led by Tim Kaner looking at a range of activities we're putting on for the students remaining in Bath over the Christmas period. We now have a web page available which contains all the relevant information and links where necessary. So just following on from what Francesca was saying, this has been a huge collaborative effort from a number of colleagues across the institution. So Students' Union, Student Services, AHS, DSDR, DDAR, Marketing and Comms. All these teams have been involved either in the planning or the delivery, or will be involved in the delivery of this winter break provision for students. So I just want to start by talking about the meals we're going to be providing for students staying in Bath. There's going to be free takeaway meals, lunch and dinner between the 21st of December and the 3rd of January. And this is available to all students, not just those living on campus. No booking is required for this, so any student staying in Bath will be welcome to come and take a lunch or dinner takeaway meal. Festive meals are being provided on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and students will come and sit and eat those meals. Because they're going to be seated, we can only provide meals for those students living on campus because of the need to seat students in bubbles. These meals will need to be booked beforehand. Because it's only available for those students living on campus, we have communicated with all our students to say they're welcome to come and stay on campus free of charge over the Christmas period and then join in with all the activities and the festive meals. So far, we've got 26 students who will be moving on to campus over this coming weekend. So this is great. Whilst the uptake has not been huge, we hope for those 26 students that this is a really valuable offer. We've also created a group for any students who are in Bath over the holidays and may like to join in with some or one of the activities we're putting on. And at the moment, we have approximately 400 students who have signed up to this group and who are receiving information about the activities. So moving on to the activities we have planned, they're planned across the full 2-week period, and there'll be something happening every day. Most days there will be multiple activities happening. These are both in person and virtual. So the types of activities we're putting on film nights, quizzes, a wreath making workshop. There'll be guided walks, and there'll also be self-guided walks and runs. And AHS will be putting on a mince pie and gingerbread man virtual cooking demonstration. So this is just a few of the activities which will be taking place over the holiday period. In terms of support for students, this is in place for students whether they're staying in Bath or they've gone home or elsewhere over the Christmas period. The Wellbeing Service is open every day from the 18th of December to the 4th of January for either in-person or virtual support. So support is available to all our students throughout the full 2-week period. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. That's really good to know. And while we're on the subject of winter, I must say a big thank you to the very talented Kate Matheson from AHS and the Creative Services team for doing such a lovely job with these festive backgrounds, but also making campus look so lovely. The Claverton rooms and the Winter Wonderland in the Chancellor's marquee look particularly lovely. So thank you very much to them. So now I'm going to hand over to Professor Peter Lambert, Pro Vice-Chancellor for Learning and Teaching, and I believe that you've got a less festive update perhaps on assessment and teaching in semester 2. So Peter, over to you.
Thank you, Corinne. I'll do my best to keep it festive. First, just a couple of things, really. First of all, to say thank you to all heads of departments for writing back to students with the feedback on the Week 8 check-in survey. This was really interesting and quite successful. What came through from the kind of 25% of students who completed it was, I suppose, the need for greater consistency in terms of Moodle and IPT and Loyal and just about everything else, which is part of the course and which you'd expect. But I think what really came through, and I'd like to underline, was the appreciation by students of the efforts of staff to make the Loyal sessions, the IPT sessions, and even their Moodle pages as entertaining and as instructive as possible. So that did come through very clearly from the student survey, and I think was echoed in the words of Francie earlier. HODs have also outlined some of the things in the letters they've been sending out that students can expect to see when they come back in semester 2, and this is in response to the greater flexibility that departments will have in terms of the content, what they want to actually teach in the IPT and Loyal sessions, and how they want to deliver IPT, whether in 1 block or 2 blocks, or how they're going to use peer-to-peer. So we've been giving departments
Thank you, Peter. That's really helpful. Thanks for that update. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Professor Bernie Morley, who's got, I think you've got an update about admissions and recruitment for us, Bernie.
Yes, I have. Thanks very much, Corinne. I shall try and make it festive. But before I get into that, I just wanted to echo the thanks that have been expressed to everyone for the enormous efforts they've put in this year. I mean, over the relatively recent past, we've had the odd challenging year that some of you may remember, but I think this has given a whole new meaning to that, and people have adapted and changed, and I think produced a phenomenal result for the university. And actually some of that, which does impact on recruitment, we've seen on social media with a lot of the positive messages that parents and others have been posting, and students read that, their parents read that, and that does impact on our recruitment. So to talk a little bit about recruitment, it's very early in the cycle to talk about postgraduate taught recruitment. Hardly any home students have looked at applying. Overseas, I think we have something of an uphill struggle here that we have to all pull together to try and improve. And that's because a lot of the feedback we've been getting from agents, for instance, is that a number of countries, but especially China, are looking at the situation in the UK. This is not about the University of Bath per se, but just looking at what's happening here and delaying their applications longer than they would normally do. So what we will be doing is putting a big campaign together to try and get a lot of information about all the positive things about our courses to improve that international recruitment and get back to the sort of levels we were at before the pandemic. So I'm going to spend a little bit longer about undergraduate because the 15th of January is the deadline for students to have got all their applications in. So a lot of that has already happened. The UCAS data across the country is telling us that students are very positive about wanting to come back to university or start university. So that's really good news. It's not surprising. They've been locked up with their parents for a long period of time, and that's what we saw last year. They would like to get away. So that's really positive. From a home student application point of view, it's all looking very good. So that's great. Overseas, the same challenges apply, and we really need to work hard at getting the same sort of messages out. Again, the social media and other platforms will help us, and we've been looking at taking on additional support, particularly with some of the Chinese social media platforms. So all of that is very positive, but it needs a lot more effort from all of us. So I'm asking you to help us with that effort as we go forward. Now, many of you will be slightly confused about A-levels. I think the government are also slightly confused about A-levels. So where we are at the moment is that from the point of view of both GCSE and A-level, Wales and Scotland have cancelled them. So they won't be having the exams. It's just England and Northern Ireland at the moment having those exams. The GCSE exams have been cramped up, but delayed by 3 weeks. A-levels have been delayed by 3 weeks as well, but will extend a little bit longer. Now, there are a number of things that come out of that. The first one is that Ofqual have said that they will endeavour to mark them in the same way to give the same grade boundaries roughly as happened last year, which means that all of the A-level results will be elevated. This impacts on the way we make our offers. So for some courses, that will be good news because more people will reach the required grades. For other courses, that will mean there are too many people reaching the required grades, and we will have to manage our offer making process quite carefully. That's something we will have to think very carefully about over the coming weeks. But that's where we are at the moment with that. There are other bits about the A-levels. The Ofqual have said that information will be provided to students to give them an idea of what is going to appear on the exam papers. It won't be everything. So it'll be a very different process. And it could be impacted again by another lockdown after Christmas if that happens. And then different parts of the country will be affected differently. And it is always possible that the government may turn around and say, actually, we will cancel A-levels as well, like they did last year. Hopefully they won't leave it till 3 or 4 weeks before we get the results, but before they do the exams, I mean. But it's a possibility. However, given what Ofqual have said about the way things are going to be graded, it shouldn't make any difference to the way we handle our applications, which is a big positive, I think, for us to manage this. It was the moving backwards and forwards last year that made it all so difficult. Whereas at least if they are consistent, either with the grades or with the way that teachers assess, then that should make things more straightforward. So hopefully it's largely a positive message, but with the caveat that we need to work hard on encouraging international students to come to the university and study our courses because of the great experience they will have here. So thank you all very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and New Year.
Thank you very much, Bernie. And then lastly, but not least, we're now going to hear from our Chief Operating Officer, Keith Zimmerman. And I think that you've got an update for us on January. If we dare look ahead to January, Keith, January, the staggered return of students and testing after the winter break. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Corin. Colleagues, firstly, I want to thank my colleagues in the STV who have helped our students to take over 6,000, I think close to 7,000 lateral flow tests in this period as part of the travel home window. Stephen Baddeley, who's been leading that project, and Catherine Binks and the team have really done an amazing job with an incredibly challenging logistical effort. And those efforts will not have been wasted. We're going to need them again in January, and I'll come to that in a second. So for the safe return of students to their university in January, after mince pies and festivities, government has asked universities to arrange for a staggered return of students to campus, and have asked that universities broadly divide their provision into those courses which require a practical element, which should start in-person teaching before those all other courses. But as you will all be aware, our academic year is a bit unusual compared to most other universities, and we're not doing in-person teaching until in the main. There are very few exceptions to this until the 1st of February. So we have had to interpret that guidance for our situation, and have done so in the following way. So and we're sending an email out to students describing all of this tomorrow, which will be distributed to heads of departments later today. But the key messages are that students on certain defined taught courses, mostly laboratory-based courses, will need to return from Monday the 4th in order to get their test and for in-person teaching to start in a few instances as early as the 7th of January. Also, all PhD students who need to resume their research on campus are free to do so anytime from the 4th of January. And there are a great many exceptions available to students in the guidance to allow any other, and these are particularly relevant to our students. So students who do not have appropriate alternative accommodation or places to study, or indeed places to take their online assessments, are all free and welcome to return to Bath from the 4th of January in the same way. And there are many other provisions made in the guidance for students to make up their own minds about why they might need to return to Bath for health and well-being reasons. And those are quite broadly defined in the guidance. And so we're conveying that to students with a strong message that campus is open to all students who need it under these definitions between the 4th and the 25th of January. Then from the 25th of January, those students who won't otherwise have returned are asked to return sufficiently ahead of the start of their in-person teaching to allow them to have had 2 lateral flow tests in just the same way we asked them to do before they traveled home, before they begin their in-person teaching. So as you can hear from all of this, our program of lateral flow testing will need to continue from the 4th of January and will run right through to the 7th, might be the 7th, I think it's the 5th of February, and they will, and we will have that set up in the Edge. And one important change from previously is that this program is now available to staff as well as our students, and any staff who would wish to take advantage of this program are also encouraged to do so. We would expect slightly lower demand in the period from the 4th to the 25th of January. So if you want to participate, would ask you to book your test then if you're able to, but please book it at any time in that window. I can anticipate questions about, well, what happens then, and we are in discussion with government about how this program may be extended into beyond the 5th of February into an ongoing mass asymptomatic testing program. That I don't expect any announcements or news on that until we return in January. My guess is that government will want to evaluate the process on the student travel window before making any further decisions about that, but we'll let you know as it goes on. Finally, I should say just something about that other topic that we don't want to think about after Christmas, which is Brexit. And we have what we consider to be the necessary arrangements in place to cope with all eventualities, but as we are as in the dark about what will happen as the rest of the world, we can but have our contingency plans in place. We will be watching closely over the period. Were any emergency actions to be required from the university, we have our EMT arrangements in place, and they'll be monitored, of course, over the whole period, and we'll use those. So I hope you can now put those 2 subjects behind you a bit until January, and back to you, Cora.
Thank you very much, Keith. So now I am going to open it up to questions, and I see that we already have a few. I'm going to come to Richard, our HR director, in a minute, because I can see that there's a question, an HR question. Kay has kindly flagged that she's hearing from students that the only communication about using Inspira is on the web. Peter has kindly responded. I know Peter sent, in fact, an email to all taught students about Inspira not too long ago, but Kay, just to reassure you that there are 2 messages going out to students this week via email, and we'll also do some social posts saying don't forget to check your email inbox, just so it's a belt and braces, but thank you for that. We'll make sure that that's underlined. So the question, HR related question, Richard, is will the voluntary exit scheme be reopened, and if so, when? Can you help us with that, Richard?
Corinne, with everybody being so festive and jolly, I feel you've brought the HR director on to be the Grinch, but so let me just try and respond to that question. I think, as a lot of us realise, I mean, the VE scheme we ran earlier this year was the first one for about 20 odd years, and it's a very disruptive thing for people in an organisation, having to make decisions, how it affects colleagues, etc. So we don't go into those things lightly. So we don't currently have any plans to run a similar large-scale scheme to that. But I think the one thing I would say is that we don't ignore that issue. And if there is a need anywhere in the organisation to reduce the numbers of staff, you'll know that we go through a consultation process, and part of that's a discussion with the trade unions around what terms we might offer for people leaving the organisation. So that's the current situation. No plans to do anything at the moment, but aware that it could be an ongoing need.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I might come back to you for a question about staff and working from home and staff working on campus in a minute. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask Keith a question about how do staff access the lateral flow tests that I can also help with, and are they available before Christmas? So could you help Keith with that question, because I know there's a pretty clear answer on that in terms of government rules.
Thank you, Corin. So we have been running a testing program, a limited testing program for staff for the last 4 days. This was announced last week, but that program closes today. We will open it again for staff from the 4th of January, and we'll publicize the link to the booking. I was going to say in the same way, but given the question, we need to perhaps promote that link a bit more widely, and we'll do so. But there is currently a section under COVID information for staff that links through to the December booking window, and I imagine there'll be something very similar in place for the January booking window just as soon as we're ready for that.
Thank you very much, Keith. That's really helpful. There's a question here about when are you expecting staff who are working from home to be able to come back to campus full time? So Richard, can I ask you to comment, and then I can add if it's helpful. So Richard, over to you first.
Sure, Corin, and it's I guess it's the question that we've been asked quite a lot over the last 6 to 9 months, and of course it's difficult to predict what's going to happen. If we were asked this question in the summer, we would have hoped the autumn. We're going through another stage now where there's talk in the media about what the vaccination is going to do, but also the fear about a potential third wave. So it's very difficult to predict these things. So I think what we're trying to say is that we need to be able to react to whatever government advice and guidance is about how universities should operate. But we also recognise the fact that a lot of people have felt quite isolated working from home for long periods of time now. So we're putting together guidance for departments to be able to say, how can we have more campus-based working in a COVID-safe environment, encouraging people to rota in, encouraging people to be on campus, using the capacity of their rooms better, encouraging people to be able to have some face-to-face meetings if they need those as well. So as long as we're still safe, it's about trying to get that buzz around campus again that we enjoy from all being here. So I can't give you an answer about when full-time will be, but what I can do is say that we're looking at ways to try and increase the amount of campus space working over time and giving departments some freedom to work out the best way to work that works for the services that they need to deliver.
Thank you, Richard. And I think that it was really clear from the staff survey that actually there's quite a big appetite for people to come onto campus for at least some of their time. And we already do have quite a lot of capacity within our existing arrangements. And I know that our estates colleagues and our AHS colleagues have done a lovely job creating spaces in the Wessex restaurant at the moment, in the Claverton rooms, for colleagues to have meetings in a COVID secure and socially distanced way. And I think that we're going to be planning quite a lot more of that in the weeks to come. I see that there are a couple of other questions on tests, so if I can ask Keith to take these both together, and just to flag that if you have got a question to ask, now is your time to put it in the question box so we can cover it in the next few minutes. Keith, there are a couple of questions here. One is that will there be any requirements on students to take tests upon return so as to protect staff? And then a question about, is it 7,000 tests or 7,000 students? Either way, it's a small proportion of all our students, and what can we do to increase this proportion when students return? So Keith, if I could ask you to address those, thank you.
Thank you, and I was busily typing my answer, but easier and better to give it here. So there will not be a requirement upon students to take a test. We can't require students to undergo a medical procedure, and there's no government has not given us any powers by which to enforce that. But we do want to promote it and will be promoting it further, which gets to the second question. There is more that I think we can do, but I think both locally and nationally, to promote the uptake of these tests. And we'll be looking at how to do that. To answer the specific question, we had we conducted as of last night, we'd conducted 6,800 tests to be precise, of which 4,348, I'll put these numbers in the chat, were first tests, so leaving 2,452 students who had a follow-up second test. Of those, 10 positives were identified, a rate of 0.15%. Both the rate of take-up of tests and the positivity rate are, to my understanding, very similar in what other universities have seen, but that's very early days, and just from my daily checking in with our Wesley Group counterparts to identify that. So I think that answers all the question, Corin.
Thank you very much, Keith. And I might have to return to you because we've just had another one about vaccines and vaccinations. So the question is, and Keith, I think I'm going to circle back to you on this one, even though I think it might be too early to give an answer. We are grateful for the free flu vaccine offered this year. Is the university planning to offer staff COVID vaccinations? This would enable a safer IPT and other activities. So Keith, can you help us with that one, please?
We have no plans at present, and I don't think any organisation other than the NHS could have such plans in place. And any steps that the university take would be very much in line of and in support of the efforts of the NHS to roll out a vaccine. What we did privately with regard to flu vaccines in no way compromised the NHS rollout of a vaccine, and that would be the same approach we would take. If we're able to facilitate this for staff, we would be absolutely keen to do so, but only underneath that qualification.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come to Bernie in a minute because there's a question here about how might a movement into Tier 3 for Bath affect us, because I know Bernie's been involved in daily or weekly meetings with the local council. And then Richard, I might come to you about this question that does get asked every time. We should put just a question on the page so people can see it, about tax relief for additional household costs, and then I will come back to Keith, I think, or Richard, about guidance about staff returning to other buildings like the Virgil building that's been asked a couple of times. But first, Bernie, can I come to you just to answer that question about Tier 3 and the local alert levels? Thank you.
Fine. Thanks, Corin. I think there's a couple of things to say about this. From the point of view, the way the tiers are structured at the moment, assuming they don't change, moving to Tier 3 for the university doesn't make that much difference, because you are permitted to travel into a Tier 3 area for education and for work. So for those living outside the Tier 3 area, I think that wouldn't be a problem. So I don't think it will make a difference. I mean, the insight I've got from meetings with the council is that the increase in cases in Bath needs to be put into perspective, in that it is a very small number. It might seem a big percentage, but it's a very small number nationally. We're still very low. The death rate in, and it's a terrible thing to talk about coming up to Christmas, but the death rate round Bath is one of the lowest in the country. So that transmission to the older age group doesn't seem to be happening. And many of those cases, the increase in cases, are restricted to 1 or 2 places. So it doesn't seem to be an outbreak. Having said that, one of the issues is around the hospitals being overstretched. I think at the moment the RUH is not overstretched, but it's only a small hospital. But I would like to think, with a bit of luck, we won't be moving into Tier 3. But I don't see, from the point of view of the functioning of the university, unless that changes, the tiers change, that will impact on us.
Thank you, Bernie. I see that the question about tax relief has been, well, a link to the government website has been put there for colleagues. Keith, I think I'm going to come back to you, I'm afraid, on a couple of questions. Just on with return to campus planning, when it happens, what will happen about staff in Virgil? So will the guidance include Virgil? And there's a question about vaccinations again. And then I'll come on to campus developments in a minute. So Keith, can you help us to answer the Virgil building question, and then we'll deal with the others.
Okay, I think so. The Virgil building has been particularly well used by students over the last period. So I think I would expect us to continue to want to be able to provide those facilities for students. So in particular, I think we're going to need to find ways of reaccommodating colleagues who've been dislocated from that move. And I would encourage those teams who have identified such a need, and I think I have a query from finance to which I need to respond today, who need alternative accommodation in as early as January. Please let us know, and we'll respond to that. But in other respects, those staff are very much in our thoughts as we start to plan the return that Richard described.
Thank you, Keith. I'm going to ask Richard in a minute to answer Andrew's question, which is about hybrid working or home working indeed, and would be very happy to continue working that even after the pandemic is gone. But there's a question here, which is the one that I was trying to get to, about vaccinations. So will the university, and Keith, I'm going to ask you to take a view on this if you can. Will the university work with government to try and push vaccines for staff who are face-to-face, both with current and potential students, and possibly allow recruitment staff to travel to help with admissions? Quite a complex question, Keith.
And all I can really do is answer that in principle, yes, we would very much want to encourage take up of a vaccine, and I'm sure that our academic colleagues as well will contribute to the public health debate on that subject in the way that they have done throughout this crisis. So both in that very general sense and locally, I would expect us to be encouraging vaccination take up for all the many reasons.
Thank you very much. And Richard, can I ask you to address Andrew's question about what about working from home? Does HR have a view on it?
I'm not sure it's an HR view, Corinne, but it's a fascinating question. And I think we've all come across people and companies where they are a loose association of people who work permanently from home and rarely see each other. And I think, for me, that doesn't typify what a university is about. I think we are a community. There is a strong social and emotional element to working together as a community and how we support each other. So I think we want, as I said in one of the other answers, while we want to get the benefits of more flexible forms of working where people might be doing some work from another location some of the time, which might be their home, and other times on campus, I'm not sure the moment we're really thinking about something that says people will be permanently working from home for all of their working lives. I think that loses some of the community benefits of being part of a university.
Thank you very much, Richard. That's really helpful. And I think that there are a couple of comments that I should just flag. One saying that the RUH has more cases as inpatients than the first wave, so just saying that they're under significant pressure. So thank you to colleagues for flagging that. And there was a comment earlier on, not a question, but I feel like I should flag it, just from Lisa saying brilliant to hear from the SU, thank you. And it really was, wasn't it? So thank you very much for that. That's all of the questions. So Ian, can I just please pass back to you to wrap this final virtual town hall of the year up with colleagues. So Ian, back to you.
Well, thank you so much. I will be brief because I'm sure you will want to be doing other things, but can I just say thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for the really thoughtful questions. They really are helpful in allowing us to make sure that we're listening as much as we can and be thinking about as many things as we can be doing in as positive a way as possible. Obviously, we don't know what the next shape of 2021 will be, but I'm sure we will want to hold more events like this, as well as hopefully at some point in-person events. In the meantime, however, congratulations what you have done. I think what's been achieved in recent months at the university has been really truly remarkable. A whole range of activities have been delivered on and success has been seen in ways that are very special. And I do pay tribute to you for that. And I do hope that you do have a sense of pride in that. However, I do hope equally that whenever you get the chance to have a really good break, you're able to switch off completely and have a complete and full rest. Thank you so much, and please accept my very, very best wishes. Thank you.